Hi.
Hello, good morning,
Good afternoon.
good evening.
Welcome to day 44 of reading through the Bible in a year. I'm Linda.
I'm Eric, and we're reading from the New International Version.
I'm glad you joined us.
Yes. And we're reading Leviticus chapter 14.
Get your Bible out, follow along.
Well, yesterday we went to a funeral of a gentleman that was 3 years older than me. And today we went to a funeral to
And 30 years old.
my son-in-law's grandfather, who is 89. And
Almost 30 years old.
man,
Yeah.
and makes you think a lot. And it makes you ponder.
This is, we have a friend whose father died this morning, and this is now 6 funerals in less than 2 months. Or deaths, anyway.
Yeah.
We didn't get to go to his funeral. He lives somewhere really far away.
South America somewhere, I think.
Somewhere, yeah.
But anyhow, here we go. Let's just open in prayer. Father in heaven, we praise you and thank you for the privilege of calling upon you. You have given us that privilege, and we thank you. And we do. We call upon you today, Lord, asking that you would be their comfort and their stay in their time of grieving, Lord. The families that have lost a loved one, just may they know your ever near presence to them, Lord. We ask also, Lord, that you bless the reading of your word, bless it to our hearts and to our minds, reveal yourself to us, and also to anyone, Lord, who tunes in. And we just praise you and thank you. And if there be anyone, Lord, that tunes in that is struggling with any situation, may they call upon you and allow you to be their strength and their stay in their time of struggle. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. You gonna start?
All right. Yesterday we were reading about infectious diseases and how the people had to go to the priest to decide whether it was clean or unclean. Well, lo and behold, the next chapter tells you cleansing from infectious diseases. This is the part I wanted.
We also learned about mildew and how you had to burn it if you couldn't wash it away.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Cut it out, burn it out if it won't wash away.
Here we go. The Lord said to Moses, "These are the regulations for the diseased person at the time of his ceremonial cleansing. When he is brought to the priest is to go outside the camp and examine him. If the person has been healed of his infectious skin disease, the priest shall order that 2 live clean birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop be brought for the one to be cleansed. Then the priest shall order that one of the birds be killed over fresh water in a clay pot. He is then to take the live bird and dip it, together with the cedar wood, the scarlet yarn, and the hyssop, into the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. 7 times he shall sprinkle the one to be cleansed of the infectious disease and pronounce him clean. Then he is to release the live bird in the open field."
You'd wonder what scarlet yarn and waving it around and all that would have to do with getting
I don't
rid
know.
of.
Let me look a little bit closer here. I wonder if the hyssop is what.
Yeah, because the hyssop would turn the yarn scarlet. And whatever is in it that made it scarlet maybe has medicinal.
I don't know.
It's worth looking into. So if any of you out there are naturopath and know about, natural healings and medicinal things like.
Or of Jewish ancestry, and you know this kind of stuff, we'd appreciate it.
Is there healing properties to hyssop?
You give us a shout and let us know.
Verse 8. The person to be cleansed must wash his clothes, shave off all his hair, and bathe with water. Then he will be ceremonially clean. I'm glad every time I get sick I don't have to shave all my hair off. Thank you for antibiotics.
Oh, I like her hair.
After this, thank you, he may come into the tent for 7 days. On the 7th day he must shave off all of his hair.
Again.
He must shave his head, his beard, his eyebrows, and the rest of his hair. So he has to be completely hairless. Must be a lot of germs we carry in our hair. He must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water, and he will be clean. Verse 10.
On the 8th day he must bring 2 male lambs and 1 ewe lamb a year old, each without defect, along with 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering. and 1 leg of oil. 1 log of oil, pardon me.
A leg of oil.
The priest who
A
pronounces
log
him
of oil?
clean.
You have
I don't know.
logs of oil?
What's a log of oil? There's another question we're throwing out. Okay, the priest who pronounces him clean shall present both the one to be cleansed and his offering before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting.
Verse 12. Then the priest is to take one of the male lambs and offer it as a guilt offering, along with the log of oil. He shall wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. He is to slaughter the lamb in the holy place, where the sin offering and the burnt offering are slaughtered. Like a sin offering, the guilt of the offering belongs to the priest. It is most holy. The priest is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, on the big toe of his right foot. The priest shall then take some of the log of oil and pour it in the palm of his own left hand, dip his right forefinger into the oil in his palm, and with his finger sprinkle some of it before the Lord 7 times. The priest is to put some of the oil remaining in his palm on the lobe of the right ear of the one who he cleans, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on top of the blood of the guilt offering. The rest of the oil in his palm the priest shall put on the head of the one to be cleansed and make atonement for him before the Lord. It is so amazing that somehow sin was associated with illness, but also that these types of rituals were also would be effective in getting rid of it's called infectious skin diseases. Amazing. Verse 19, then the priest is to sacrifice the sin offering and make atonement for the one to be cleansed from his uncleanness. After that, the priest shall slaughter the burnt offering and offer it on the altar, together with the grain offering, and make atonement for him, and he will be cleaned. So I guess if they are obedient to do these acts of cleansing and ritual, then God is free to heal him, I suppose. If, however, he is poor and cannot afford these, he must take 1 male lamb as a guilt offering to be waved to make atonement for him, together with 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, a log of oil, and 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, which he can afford, and 1 for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. On the 8th day he must bring them let me do that again. On the 8th day he must bring them for his cleansing to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. The priest is to take the lamb for the guilt offering together with the log of oil and wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. He shall slaughter the lamb for the guilt offering and take some of its blood and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. The priest is to pour some of the oil into the palm of his own left hand, and with his right forefinger sprinkle some of the oil from his palm 7 times before the Lord. Some of the oil on his palm he is to put on the same places he put the blood of the guilt offering, on the lobe of the right ear, on the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. The rest of the oil in his palm the priest shall put on the head of the one he's cleaning, to make atonement for him before the Lord. Then he shall sacrifice the dove or the young pigeon, which the person can afford, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, together with the grain offering. In this way the priest will make atonement before the Lord on behalf of the one to be cleansed. These are the regulations for anyone who has an infectious skin disease and who cannot afford the regular offering for his cleansing. You missed how to get rid of skin diseases, and you wanted to hear that. You'll have to read it again. Yeah.
Cleansing from mildew. Verse 33. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, When you enter the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as your possession, and I put a spreading mildew in a house in that land.
He puts a spreading mildew?
It says, and I put
So
a
God
spreading
puts the
mildew in a
there?
house in that land. The owner of the house must go and tell the priest, I have seen something that looks like mildew in my house. The priest is to order the house to be emptied before he goes in to examine the mildew, so that nothing in the house will be pronounced unclean. After the priest is to go in and inspect the house. He is to examine the mildew on the wall, and if it has greenish or reddish depressions that appear in it, deeper than the surface of the wall, the priest shall go out the doorway of the house and close it up for 7 days. On the 7th day the priest shall return to inspect the house. If the mildew has spread on the walls, he is to order that the contaminated stone be torn out and thrown into an unclean place outside the town. He must have all the inside walls of the house scraped, and the material that is scraped off dumped into an unclean place outside the town. Then they are to take other stones to replace those, and take new clay and plaster the house. If the mildew reappears in the house after the stones have been torn out and the house scraped and plastered, the priest is to go and examine it. And if the mildew is spread in the house, it is a destructive mildew. The house is unclean. It must be torn down, its stones, timbers, and all the plaster, and taken out of the town to an unclean place.
Do you think God put it there as a test of their obedience, or because he knew the house had something bad in it and he was marking the house so they get rid of the bad stones?
Maybe. Maybe, I don't know. Anyone who goes into the house while it is closed up will be unclean till evening. Anyone who sleeps or eats in the house must wash his clothes. But if the priest comes to examine it and the mildew has not spread after the house has been plastered, he shall pronounce the house clean, because the mildew is gone. To purify the house, he is to take 2 birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop. He shall kill one of the birds over fresh water in a clay pot. Then he is to take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet yarn, and the live bird, dip them into the blood of the dead bird and the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall purify the house with the bird's blood, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. Then he is to release the live bird in the open field outside the town. In this way he will make atonement for the house, and it will be clean. These are the regulations for any infectious skin disease, for an itch, for mildew in clothing or in a house, and for a swelling, a rash, or a bright spot, to determine when something is clean or unclean. These are the regulations for infectious skin diseases and mildew.
If you were out there and you were a Jewish person, like a rabbi or something that understands this, because I've been told that you have to memorize this by the time you're 13, so I'm sure that you must have been also taught and had these things explained to you. And if you are one of those persons and would like to give us some insight on the understanding of this, I'd really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So please feel free to make a comment or something under our video in the comment files on my blog or on my tweet, so that we can understand some of these things that were commanded in the Old Testament.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we're done
Okay.
with part 1.
Thank you.
And please
The Lord bless you.
check part 2, because we're going to read from Matthew next about
Jesus before the Sanhedrin.
Mhm.
We started where he is arrested, is being taken away.
Yeah.
He's before the Sanhedrin. Okay, so he's being tried.
So we're done.